In the early 90s, I lived for a few years in a Christian community in Little Gidding, Cambridgeshire. It was loosely modelled on a community which had existed there in the 17th century and made famous when the poet T.S. Eliot named one of his 4 quartets after it. The original community was led by Nicholas Ferrer, and the rector of the neighbouring church of Leighton Bromswold at the time was a minister named George Herbert. Herbert wasn't a member of the community, but was a frequent visitor, friend of Nicholas, and had a great influence on the community's way of life. Between them, George Herbert and Nicholas Ferrer demonstrated a powerful alternative way of living the Christian life. This was symbolised by the layout in George Herbert's church. In a time when there were life-threatening arguments about the relative importance of the sacraments and preaching, Herbert had the altar and the pulpit placed on the same level in the church, spelling out their equal importance, finding a middle way. Herbert spent the last few years of his life in a different parish as minister of the Anglican Church in Bemerton, a then small village near Salisbury on the south coast. He'd seen great contrasts in his life. He'd once been a VIP with the ear of the king. A fall from grace had led him to his profession as a clergyman, but he never saw this as second best. In fact, he believed that he'd always had a calling to the ministry, but had resisted it while he was a celebrity. He was greatly loved by his parishioners at Bemerton, and went out of his way to help them in very practical ways. Whilst at Bemerton, George Herbert wrote a series of poems just for himself to help him on his spiritual journey. After his death, his friend Ferrer had them published, and now they're greatly treasured as top-flight literature. 2 of them were turned into hymns, Let All the World, and today's featured hymn, King of Glory. In 1993, it was the 400th anniversary of Herbert's birth. I had set a number of his poems to music, and was thrilled to be invited with a little band of musicians to perform them in Herbert's church in Bemerton. I remember singing the poems, looking down the nave towards 2 stained glass windows, side by side. Portraits, one of George Herbert, the other of Nicholas Ferrer, a cherished memory. The melody we sing the hymn to today was written in the 19th century by Joseph David Jones. King of Glory is a vast outpouring of praise and thankfulness to God from a very talented, very humble human being.